Welcome to the RSTV World News. My name is Emily Tari Mpero. Do you love and care about Rivers State and her peace? If yes, let's build and take her to greater heights. This is a task we must all accomplish. And now details of the news. Rivers State Governor Simlai Fubara says the administration will continue to take necessary steps required in cushioning the pains caused by the removal of fuel subsidy by the federal government. Governor Fubara gave the assurance when he addressed members of the organized labor led by the Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress and protest march against fuel subsidy removal by the federal government at the Government House Gate in Port Harcourt. Tamno Barabi Bulubo takes it from here.
The Chief of Staff Government House Chidiyamadi represented Governor Fubara and addressed the protesting members of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Trade Union Congress and civil society organizations. Governor Fubara applauded them for expressing their concern with the decorum, but told them that because Nigeria is in difficult times, difficult decisions are required so that a better Nigeria can be created for everybody. The governor pointed out that his administration was the first in the country to initiate an intervention geared towards cushioning the hardship caused by the fuel subsidy removal with the provision of free buses. Governor Fubara said beyond the provision of free buses, talks have been sustained with the Nigerian Labour Congress NLC and all critical stakeholders in exploring more avenues of cushioning the challenges and pains of the moment and urged them to continue to support his administration.
His Excellency is the first governor in the entire length of this country that went ahead knowing the implication and feeling the implication of that decision to release free buses for the people of Rivers State. His Excellency has also asked me to let you know that difficult times require difficult decisions and has asked that I should appeal to each and every one of you to be patient. You have presented this communique, I will present to him and he will definitely ensure that it gets to the appropriate authorities at the national level. At the state level, he has asked that I should assure you that he is restless and he is ever willing to do everything humanly possible within his power as the governor of Rivers State to ensure that the current challenges that are being felt by not just only members of the labor, but the generality of the masses of Rivers State, that those challenges are properly addressed.
Rivers State Chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, Alex Agowon, who spoke on behalf of the protesting groups, presented 7 demands that the state and the federal government should urgently address, which included a reversal of the hike in prices of PMS, tertiary institution fees, and VAT. Agowon also listed urging the federal government to fix the ailing refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri and Kaduna, while also reversing all inhuman actions and policies of government. Tamno Barabi Iblubo, RSTV News.
Workers in the state joined their counterparts across the nation to embark on a one-day protest against some recent policies of the federal government, particularly the removal of fuel subsidy without adequate measures and palliatives in place to cushion the effect on the citizens. The protest was led by the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress in collaboration with civil society organizations and the National Association of Nigerian Students. Nnamdi Olimini reports.
As early as 8 a.m., the Labour House was already filled with workers from various unions and local government areas eager to participate in the nationwide protest. The protest march started from the NLC Secretariat at D-Line through Kaduna Street, Okija, MNK, Ikwere Road, and terminated at Government House, Port Harcourt. The protesters displayed placards with inscriptions such as 200,000 naira new minimum wage, now fix local refineries, among others. The chairman of Nigerian Labour Congress Rivers State Branch, Alex Agwamwo, who led the protest, presented the demands of workers to the Rivers State government for onward transmission to the federal government.
We request for immediate reversal of all anti-poor policies of government, including the recent hike in PMS price, school fees, and VAT. We ask that our local refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri, Kaduna should be fixed immediately. We ask that the release of 8 months with test salaries of university lecturers and workers should be paid. We ask that the federal government to accord appropriate recognition and support to the Presidential Steering Committee and the work of ESOP committees. And we ask for the federal government to put to stop of all inhuman actions and policies of government.
Representatives of civil society groups, Enefa George Will, and a chieftain of the Labour Party in the state, Prince Choma Chinwo, described some recent actions and policies of federal government as draconian and inimical to the well-being of the populace. They called for immediate reversal of the price of fuel, rehabilitation of refineries, and proper engagement of relevant stakeholders and sections of the people before taking decisions.
They should tell us in clear terms when they are going to fix our refineries, and most importantly, fix the electricity sector.
Before we can talk about removing of subsidy, we should first of all think about refurbishing our refinery. Take in the money, put in there, make sure that our refineries are working. We have the oil. When you put the money into the refinery and make sure the refineries are working, subsidy will automatically die because there will be no importation.
At the end of the exercise, workers were advised to go back to work and wait for further instructions from the National Executive of the NLC. Nnamdi Olimini, RSTV News.
The Upper Senate on Wednesday set up a 3-man committee led by Senator Alin Dume to dialogue with leaders of unions of Nigerian workers who were protesting against the removal of fuel subsidy and other anti-power policies of President Bola Tinubu. Senate set up the committee after the workers forcefully gained entrance into the National Assembly by pulling down the gate. The protesters had earlier gathered at the Unity Fountain from where they marched to the NAS complex. Following their action, the Senate presided over by Godswill Akpabio had immediately gone into a closed-door session, at the end of which the Senate announced that a 3-man committee has been set up to meet with the protesters at the National Assembly. Speaking to the labor leaders, Ndume asked them to call off the nationwide protest and give the Senate 1 week to address their demands. Now, Niger Delta Petroleum Resources has inaugurated the Murali Host Communities Trust, which is the 4th board of trustees since the inspection of the company. Managing Director NDPR Vite Falade said the new trust is incorporated in accordance with the provisions of Petroleum Industry Act PRA 2021 and a 7-man board of trustees to exhibit integrity in their dealings. Correspondent Hannah Aman completes the story.
Mr. Falade called on the new trustees to bring their wealth of experiences from private and public sectors to bear, provide the leadership needed for the success of the trust, and be enthusiastic about sustainable development of their communities, stressing that it's an opportunity to reset how the funds of the trust can be administered to produce the maximum benefit for all. He enumerated the objectives of the trust to include fostering sustainable prosperity within the communities, provide direct social and economic benefits from petroleum operations to host communities, enhancing peaceful and harmonious coexistence between licenses or leases and the host communities, amongst others.
And consequently, as trustees, we will charge you to act not only on behalf of yourselves as beneficiaries, but on behalf of the communities at large. It's jointly, as one family, for the mutual benefit of all.
In their separate speeches, Eze Ekpealogbo III of Ekpea Land, His Imperial Majesty Eze Kelvin Anugo, and the River State Commissioner for Chieftaincy Affairs, Sylvanus Mwankwo, charged the new trustees to manage the trust fund properly, be accountable, and attract good projects to their communities, making truth and honesty their watchword, and defend the integrity their communities have conferred on them.
What do we do to our communities? What project do we attract to our communities that will write our name in a book of gold? These are the questions you need to ask yourself. Honesty, dedication, fairness is the watchword.
If you have in mind to drive SUV from the money that will be allotted for any project in your community, please, by what everybody has said today, erase it completely so that you will not find yourself inside that jail.
In his speech, the immediate past chairman NDPR Host Community Development Trust, Chamberlain Oyibo, said he and his colleagues served faithfully, giving their best to the company and the communities within the resources available to them. He called on the new members of the Board of Trustees to build on their success, adding that they trained 120 youths in different skills, equipped them with starter packs during their tenure. He also enumerated other projects executed during their tenure.
The communities have to ensure peaceful and conducive atmosphere for the company to carry out its operations. There must be a win-win situation.
Mr. Onwa Ebere responded on behalf of the 7-man new Board of Trustees. The program also featured goodwill messages and inauguration of the Board of Trustees. Hannah Aman, RSTV News. Mr. Falade called.
National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA) has charged members of the Nigerian Association of Patent and Proprietary Medicine Dealers Revers 1 to take seriously the campaign against drug abuse and illicit trafficking to the grassroots level. The commander, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency Revers State Command, Ahmed Mahmouda, said that this is a desensitization campaign in collaboration with NAMPED at Modumaya Roundabout. Gatswa Nelly was there and now reports.
Commander of Narcotics Ahmed Mahmouda explained that the essence of raising awareness against drug abuse and illicit trafficking was to enthrone lasting health conditions and progressive society. He noted that communities have been polluted as a result of the negative effects of the cankerworm eating deep into the fabrics of society, leading youth to madness and various crimes that are inimical to development. The state commander said the fight against drug abuse cannot be left in the hands of government alone, adding that with the collaborative efforts of stakeholders, we go a long way to achieve the set targets, while reminding members of NAPMED of the consequences for lawbreakers.
They should adhere to their rules and regulations regarding the dispensing of controlled drugs or the dispensing of drugs that are medicinal only. Collaborate with us to tell us, to give us information about the deviant ones, those that deviate from the norms and the ethics of their association.
On her part, the Assistant State Commander, Drug Demand Reduction Unit NDLEA River State Command, Stella Maris Amede, dwelt on the consequences of substance abuse and exposed members of NAPMED to the drugs authorized by law to dispense and to avoid. Also, the Assistant State Commander, Prosecution and Legal Services NDLEA River State Command, Ifugutubo, spoke on the legal implications of dealing in illegal drugs, noting that approaches
should involve law enforcement agents, prevention programs, treatment options, community engagements, and socio-economic interventions, among other variables.
They should endeavor to report to defaulters to NDLA by providing timely information. Control of illicit and licit drugs in Nigeria requires intensive awareness campaign in the country in order to bring to the knowledge of the people the full consequences and dangers of drug abuse and trafficking.
The NDLA is mandated to proceed to arrest such a person. These are crimes that attract not less than 3 years if a drug offender is convicted.
Some participants lauded the NDLA for the enlightenment. God's Power Anele, RSTV News.
The Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, has submitted a second list of ministerial nominees for President Bola Tinubu to the Senate on Wednesday afternoon. Gbajabiamila submitted the second list of the nominees to Senate President Godswill Akpabio at about 3:19 p.m. after being admitted into the red chambers. Recall that Gbajabiamila had last Thursday submitted the first list with 28 nominees to the Senate, hinting that more names would be forwarded to the lawmakers for scrutiny. Now, do you love and care about Rivers State and her peace? If yes, let's build and take her to greater heights. This is a task we must accomplish. And up ahead on the news, Niger military junta reopens country's land borders airspace with 5 neighboring countries. And Typhoon Kanun lashes southern Japan, forcing evacuation, cutting off power to 1/3 of homes on Okinawa Islands. Details of these and more after the break. To stay.
The new Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. No need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish and energize your kids.
Milo! No matter what I do, you love me unconditionally. You show up for me every day. No matter when I show you, you show me love. You show me, you show me, you show me. No matter when I show you, you show me love.
Now available in new flavors.
You show me love.
Awesome wonder and mighty ruler, the king of all the earth.
I have said this, and I'm going to say it. My vision is not to buy private jets. My vision is not to drive the most expensive car. My vision is not to use the money of God to build expensive school that the members that contributed cannot attend. My vision is to use the resources of God, prepare people for heaven. My vision is to look for the lost souls, look for the prostitutes, look for the armed robbers, look for the killers, look for the assassins. Use the resources of God and rehabilitate them and prepare them for heaven. My vision is to look for children that cannot go to school, children that are roaming on the street. Use the resources of God, take them to a school, think that they can go to school and become better people tomorrow. That is my vision.
OPS, Dr. Jesus in Action. Dr. Jesus in Action. God is here.
When malaria won't show power for your side, I'm a temp salt gel.
Are you are?
Me I can tell you no say. Malaria my lesson when no get bad days. Oh, bad days come out and it get easy to swallow. I got red game changer. I'm a temp salt gel.
Say no to malaria. Yes to life.
The new Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. No need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish and energize your kids.
Milo! No matter what I do, you love me unconditionally. You show up for me every day.
Now available in new flavors.
You show me love.
This is RSTV World News. We bring you world-class news, accurate, first-hand, entertaining, balanced analysis. RSTV, Channel 22 Port Harcourt.
Hey, welcome back. You're still watching the RSTV World News. Nigerian Medical Association Lagos State Chapter has directed all the doctors working in the 3 government hospitals on the Lagos Island to begin an indefinite strike over the death of its colleague, Dr. Vare Diaso. The NMA also declared a 5-day mourning period in the state and asked doctors in the other government-owned hospitals to scale down activities as a mark of respect for the dead colleague. The association said Diaso died on Tuesday at the General Hospital, Odan, Lagos, after she was trapped in the elevator for more than 40 minutes before she was rescued, and there was no blood available to resuscitate her. Nigeria has cut its electricity supply to Niger in line with the sanctions decided by the West African neighbors of Niger, destabilized by a coup. On Sunday, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, led by Nigerian President Bola Tinubu, decided on sanctions against the putschists who toppled President-elect Mohamed Bazoum a week ago. In addition to a 1-week ultimatum to restore constitutional order and the suspension of financial transactions with Niger, ECOWAS decreed the freezing of all service transactions, including energy transactions. Many neighborhoods in the city of Niamey are normally subject to power cuts, and Nigeria's decision will aggravate this situation. Niger, one of the poorest countries in the world, is dependent on its foreign partners in many ways. Now, World Bank President Ajay Banga will begin a 3-day visit to Nigeria on Thursday, August 3rd, 2023. The visit is the next step of a global tour that is at the center of a mission to write a new playbook for the 78-year-old institution. Banga will focus his time in Nigeria on identifying opportunities to create jobs for young people and women, addressing energy needs and renewable energy, and further exploring the potential for digitization. As part of these efforts, Banga still will visit a World Bank Finance mini-grid power plant that is providing solar energy to an entire community, and a woman-owned business that has generated more than 1,500 service sector jobs for young Nigerians. According to the statement, the World Bank president, while in Nigeria, is also expected to meet with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Vice President Kashim Shettima, and convene discussions with representatives from the private sector and civil society. The World Bank President Ajay Banga is arriving after a 2-day visit to Ethiopia and will be joined by his wife, Ritu Banga. And on the foreign scene, 1 week after the military coup in Niger, the new military government has reopened the country's land borders and airspace with 5 neighboring countries. A spokesman for the junta announced on television on Tuesday evening the border crossing to Mali, Burkina Faso, Algeria, Libya and Chad were reopened, he said. Tensions with the 15-meter Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, remained. The junta said Niger's borders with Benin and Nigeria, both ECOWAS members, remain closed for the time being. On Sunday, ECOWAS issued an ultimatum to the coup leaders demanding that the democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum be released and reinstated within a week. ECOWAS began a 3-day meeting in Nigeria on Wednesday to discuss the way forward. ECOWAS members, Burkina Faso and Mali, already suspended after earlier military coups had sided with Niger. Meanwhile, France and Italy began evacuating their citizens and orders, with 2 planes landing in France and 1 in Italy. According to French press reports and the French Foreign Ministry, the French planes carried mainly French citizens, also Germans, and several other EU nationals, some from the United States, Ethiopia, and elsewhere. A typhoon has lashed southern Japan, forcing evacuations and cutting off power to 1/3 of homes on the Okinawa Islands. Slow-moving Kanun, the 3rd typhoon to hit East Asia in as many quakes threaten to worsen the heaviest rains in Beijing in more than a century. Has killed at the deluge in China, at least 34 people so far, and experts say that extreme weather events like this will become more frequent because of global warming. Kanun follows two other typhoons, Kalum and Doksuri, a superstorm which also drained the Philippines and Taiwan, killing more than 30 people in the last few weeks. It was expected to make landfall on China's northeast coast on Wednesday, but forecasts now say it is more likely to turn towards the Japanese mainland without hitting China. A Russian drone strike has hit Ukrainian port facilities at Izmail on the river Danube, a short distance from NATO member state Romania. A grain warehouse, a passenger building, and an elevator for loading grain have all been damaged. Russia began targeting Ukraine's ports after abandoning a UN deal that enabled both countries to export grain safely across the Black Sea. A large fire raged from the port area of Izmail early on Wednesday. Odessa regional leader Ole Kipa said emergency services were working on the site of the latest Russian attack, and there were no reports of any casualties. Romanian President Klaus Iohannis condemned Russia's continued attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure and the proximity of Romania as unacceptable. Now, do you love and care about River State and her peace? If yes, let's build and take her to greater heights. This is a task we must all accomplish. And now to end the news is a recap of some of our major highlights. Governor Simlai Fubara has assured that his administration will continue efforts at ameliorating effects of fuel subsidy removal by federal government. Senate has set up a 3-man committee led by Senator Alim Dume to dialogue with leaders of unions of Nigerian workers who were protesting against the removal of fuel subsidy and other anti-poor policies of President Bola Tinubu, and asked for 7 days to address labor demand. We had informed you that World Bank President Ajay Banga will begin a 3-day visit to Nigeria on Thursday, August 3rd, 2023. And that's how we saw the globe tonight. My name is Emily Tari Mberu. Thanks for being my company from start to finish. To have an amazing night's rest.
Here we